Hello everyone, this is Suyash from Scalar, and in today's video we'll be talking about the top 10 most common cyber attacks, right? So let's get started with first understanding what are the different concepts of cyber attacks, why cyber attacks occur, a bit basics about cyber security as well, and then we'll be covering the top 10 most common cyber attacks, right? So let us go on with the agenda for what we have. So first we have introduction to cybersecurity. Then directly we'll be starting off with our top 10 most common cyber attacks. Okay. After that we have the phishing attacks. We have malware. We have ransomware. We have the DOS attack, which uh, repeat. We have the DOS attack, which is denial of service. Then we have social engineering. Post that we have SQL injection, then we have man in the middle attack, we have cross-site scripting attack, brute force attack, and DNS spoofing. Okay, so without further ado, let us start with our first topic, which is introduction to cybersecurity. So, guys, before I start off with whatever is cybersecurity, anything related to it, let me tell you something which I have myself experienced it. So, uh, a day before yesterday, one of my friends received this WhatsApp message. Okay, now he was astonished and called up the number which was provided in that WhatsApp message, and to his surprise, he was told to send 10,000 rupees. And since it was something which was related to the non-payment of certain things, right? So he immediately sent that money, and to his surprise he found that it was a spam message from a scammer, and due to that he was scammed of this much amount. And that was something that, so this kind of attack is also a kind of a cyber security, I mean cyber attack. So first let us understand what cyber attacks is by the definition. So guys, cyber attacks are malicious activities that target computer systems, networks, and data, right? And to understand about cybersecurity, let us go through the definition first. So basically, cybersecurity is the practice of protecting from these attacks. Right now, guys, you must have seen all of these type of scams which is occurring, like the WhatsApp message scam, which occurred earlier during the 1900s. There was one more attack, which is the Morris worm attack, right? So all of these attacks which occur right now is something which people do have to be concerned, right? Usually these type of attacks are occurring to very to those parts of the people and those parts of India where most of the people are not aware of cyber attacks, right? They think that this is very legit, and some people are not even educated with the cyber attack related stuff, right? So this is why we should understand the practice of cybersecurity, right? So guys, as I was talking about, cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, network, and data from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction, right? Now let us understand individually what this is, right? Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, network, and data from unauthorized access, unauthorized use. So unauthorized access, if suppose you have your data is maybe leaked, or maybe you are not using that particular data, right? So unauthorized access, or maybe someone else is using that data without your authorization, right? Disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. So all of these concepts are related to your own personal data, and by this data I mean the digital data. Okay, now since everyone know that you are using products which is related you are using products which is related to the digital part of it, right? So maybe you are using, repeat, maybe you are storing some things on a document, or maybe a drive or somewhere, right? So all of these things where you are storing your data on internet, it's absolutely exposed. Okay, and you need to add measures to safeguard those things, right? So here we'll be talking about all of these things. So one major thing which you all need to understand is the key aspects of cybersecurity. So first is confidentiality. So confidentiality means that if you want to provide access to a certain group of people, then only you will provide it. Otherwise your data is absolutely confidential. Okay, nobody can check it, nobody can nobody can use it, and nobody can change it, right? Then comes integrity. Integrity over here means uh, how much how much correct data is added. Okay, there might be, so let's take a scenario where a data is there on a certain drive or somewhere, right? And what happens that a duplicate file is added, right? A duplicate file, or maybe a similar file with that same name, but your actual input information which is there inside that particular drive is something which has been changed or which has been modified, or maybe someone has hampered with it, right? So that that actually is a part of the integrity related. So the data integrity should be maintained. Okay, then comes availability. Now availability over here means that whenever you want to access your data, you can do it, and that's what availability over here means. That's the only normal concept of it, right? Layman terms. So, guys, let us start off with our first attack, which we are talking about. And also, before we start off, I'll just tell you a small, I mean, graph through which you can understand the how the cyber crime and how cyber attacks are affecting. So, in 2020, it affected around, like, the amount which was affected was around 2.95 trillion US dollars. 2021, it was 5.95 trillion US dollars. 2022 it was 8.44 trillion US dollars, and in 2023 it was 11.5 trillion US dollars. So now you can expect that it might increase in 2024, it might increase in 2025, right? These things can happen. Okay, the source is from Statista, right? So if you guys want to check, you can check the source which is provided in the description box, right? So guys, this is all which is happening in the and by this you can understand that whatever is cyber attacks are in gonna increase only. There is no dip since 2020, right? So we have to safeguard our data, we have to safeguard our networks, and we'll be understanding the different, so I'll be making you all aware of what are the different types of attacks which can occur. So guys, I'll make you aware of what are the different types of attacks and how you can prevent yourself and your data from those attacks. Okay, so first we have the phishing attacks, right? So let's start off with what actually phishing attack is. So guys, phishing is basically the utmost definition of persuasion, okay, or rather the art of persuasion, right? Phishing involves tricking users into revealing sensitive information like login credentials by pretending someone else. Okay, for example, you are in an you are working in a ABC organization, and maybe your manager asks for some sensitive data. Okay, for like I mean your manager asks for some sensitive data, and you send it to him or her, right? But later you get to know that it was someone else who was impersonating your manager and was trying to get that money, right? So this type of attack is called phishing attack. Okay, so let's understand it by the definition which is there. A phishing attack is a sneaky attempt to trick you into giving up your personal information, okay, like passwords, credit card numbers, or other sensitive data. Think of it like a cyber phishing expedition where attackers cast a deceptive lure to reel in unsuspecting victims. So basically, think of why the name phishing is there. Think of it in this way, how phishing actually occurs, right? You put down a bait on a hook, right? And the fish catches that particular bait, and later they get to know that, oh, it was something which was a very deceptive attack, right, on them. So this is why it is named as phishing attack. Okay, so that bait is acting as the bait is impersonating someone, right? So that is how phishing attack works, right? So let us understand a case study on phishing attack. So basically this case study is an example of phishing attack which has happened at a very big level. Okay, so during the 2016 US presidential election, so guys, the 2016 US presidential election was the campaign of if I'm not wrong, it was Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? So both the campaigns faced numerous phishing attempts aimed at stealing campaign staff credentials and voters' data. These attacks, though not, these attacks were not entirely successful because, I mean, it's at a very different level, right? So these attacks were not entirely successful, but it highlighted the vulnerability of political campaigns to cyber threats. Okay, so this was one of the one of the phishing attack. I mean, one of the case study of a certain phishing attack, right? Now, what are the different preventive measures, right? So let's understand some of the preventive measures. First is be cautious of unsolicited emails and attachments, even from seemingly familiar sources. So if you see that you have received a certain email, and maybe since you know that person, you might think that there is some or the other situation which is occurring, and this certain person is not acting as it should be, right? So when this type of things comes in your mind, think so when this type of things come into your mind, think twice. Okay, so that's why it's mentioned be cautious of these emails, right? Never click on suspicious link or download unknown files. Use strong and unique passwords for all your online accounts, guys. Strong and unique passwords is something which is common for every type of attack. Okay, from your side you can only do this basic thing, that you have to use a strong and unique password. Okay, then you have enable two-factor authentication wherever possible, right? So I hope you guys know about two-factor authentication as well, right? You might have seen two-factor authentication while you are doing some transaction, right? You have to add a password, or maybe you have to add the details of your card related things, right? And then maybe you have to add a pin as well, right? So those things, whenever those things are also added, still you get another authentication, which is an SMS. Okay, which is an SMS where you have to, where in that SMS an OTP is registered, right? Or rather one time password, right? So that you have, so after that you have to give that OTP again. Okay, so this is a kind of a two-factor authentication. And then we have keep your software up to date, including your operating system, web browser, and antivirus software. So these things are very much common, guys. Using strong and unique passwords and keeping your software up to date is something which is very common, and you must do that. Okay, right. Next we have malware. So, guys, malware refers to malicious software which is specifically designed to harm or exploit computer systems, networks, or users. Okay, uh, so malware can be anything from computer viruses, worms, trojans, ransomware, etc. Okay, so the attacks which is kind of in those ways, which is where some technicality is involved, right? Maybe a worm attack, or maybe a virus attack. So these all things come under malware category. Okay, so guys, let's understand it by the definition which is there. Malware is a malicious software deployed by a threat actor to wreak havoc on an organization or an individual, right? And malware is usually found attached to emails, embedded in fraudulent links, hidden in ads, or lying in wait on various sites that you or maybe your employees might visit on the internet, right? So the end goal of malware is to harm or exploit computers and networks, often to steal data or money. Okay, so this is what actually malware means. And let us understand the case study on malware attack. So one famous malware attack which has occurred was the I love you worm, right? Also known as the love bug. Okay, it was a computer worm that wreaked havoc across the internet in 2000, right? What actually happened is that this type of worm was basically, whenever you are opening a certain site, right, there is mentioned over there, like, I mean, it was mentioned I love you over there, and just because of that, your files and your personal data was infected. Okay, and it really caused a great havoc during the 2000 times, which caused delayed in lot of things. Okay, and those were the times where internet was not that much robust. Okay, so that's why these attacks happen, and these attacks happen till now as well. Okay, So let us understand the preventive measures. So yes, first two is something which is common, right? Keeping software up to date and using strong and unique passwords. Then is being cautious about clicking on links and downloading attachments, and then is backing up your data regularly. Apart from these, what I would suggest you all to have an antivirus software as well. Okay, so if any malicious files are get downloaded, then like the antivirus software will automatically provide you the information that these type of files are downloaded, or maybe you have open certain repeat, or maybe you have opened certain website which you shouldn't have. So these type of things are there, and the antivirus will protect you from it. Okay, so guys, next we have ransomware, right? Now, ransomware, for ransomware explanation, I'll give you a small scenario. Imagine waking up one morning and finding that every door in your house is locked. Okay, you can't access your belongings, your photos, or even your computer files, right? So this is how ransomware looks like. Basically, it is kind of like how it's written over here, holding your data as a hostage. Okay, so this is also a kind of an attack which happens very frequently, and sometimes it happens in such a way that you are a victim to the attack, but you are still not aware of it, right? So this is how ransomware works. Okay, now let us understand with the definition. Ransomware is a malware designed to deny a user or organization access to files on their computer by encrypting these files and demanding a ransom payment for the decryption key. Cyber attackers place organizations in a position where paying the ransom is the easiest and cheapest way to regain access to their files. Okay, so let's understand a case study as well. The WannaCry ransomware attack in 2017 was a global cyber threat. So what actually happened in this case, that due to this WannaCry ransomware attack, since your Windows, I mean, it was especially occurring to those people who were using the Windows operating system, and it infected hundreds and thousands of computers by basically encrypting your files and thus making it not possible to open it up, right? And later they were, if you want to access those files later, then it was showing you either an option to pay this much amount of money in bitcoins, and thus like, I mean, thus causing a havoc, and also keeping your data as a captive, right? So this attack highlighted the importance of timely software updates and cybersecurity practices. Okay, so preventive measures, again, same things are there for ransomware as well. You have to back up your data, and you have to be cautious about clicking on links and downloading attachments. And also, one more thing, guys, be aware of when this type of ransomware attacks are occurring, and as soon as possible register a complaint to the cybersecurity department, or maybe you can go to a police station and register a normal FIR. Okay, next we have the DOS attack or DOS attack. Okay, now DOS attack is basically, the meaning of DOS attack is denial of service, right? So denial of service is kind of a way through which a certain hacker or a certain community of hackers are finding out vulnerabilities on your websites. Okay, so if you have your own website, and maybe if you're trying to sell a product or something like that, right? So what actually, in denial of service, what happens that, like, the attackers send something which is known as the botnet. Okay, now over here, if you see, there is a definition about botnet as well, so I'll tell you about that, what actually botnet means. Botnet means sending requests on that particular site so that your website server gets overwhelmed. Okay, now by overwhelmed over here means that, since, let's take an example, suppose you have a capacity of maybe what, 1,000 users a minute. Let's take a hypothetical example. If you have a capacity of 1,000 users, 1,000 users in a minute, like only 1,000 users can enter into your website and use it, so that, because you have a server limit as well, right? You have a server limit. Now if that exceeds, right, if that exceeds, then your website might not function properly. There might be some 404 errors, or maybe it gets completely shut down, right? So DOS attack over here means that sending botnets. By botnets, again, it's basically sending requests on your website and thus overwhelming it. And since the websites can't handle that much capacity, they have to shut it down. Okay, so this is a kind of DOS attack which happens. Now let us take a case study as well. But before the case study, let's understand the definition. So, a denial of service attack is a malicious attempt to shut down a website, server, or network by overwhelming it with traffic. Imagine it like a traffic jam so bad that no one can get through. Right? DOS attacks can be launched from a single computer or from a network of infected computers called a botnet. Okay, now let us understand about the case study as well. So since most of the coders know what actually GitHub is, right? So GitHub also was attacked with this DOS attack twice, in one in 2015 and another in 2018. And the attackers used different methods, including amplification techniques and botnets too, and overwhelm the site. Okay, due to this, GitHub had to shut down for a while just to make the changes happen and again relaunch it in a proper way. Okay, now the preventive measures are: first, you have to use a content delivery network, CDN. So what does CDN means over here? So if one particular server is overwhelmed, right, then what actually CDN does, it will route it to some another server, which is, and that server will have some kind of regulation so that the network is not hacked, or maybe the network is not overwhelmed with the botnets, right? So this is a type of CDN, which is, I mean, this is actually called CDN. Okay, next, we have use a web application firewall. Web application firewall is again a kind of a barrier which doesn't allow these type of botnets to enter into your website. Okay. Next, we have keeping your software up to date and having a plan for responding to this DOS attack. So what actually happens? Content delivery network will basically it will route the traffic to some other servers, right? But still, the overwhelming doesn't stops at that time. Maybe it might happen that they will again start to send requests on the other server as well, right? So during that time, you have to have a plan to respond this DOS attack without harming your website or without harming your server. Okay, so this is what actually DOS attack means. Okay, now next we have social engineering. So, guys, let's understand the definition first. Social engineering is like tricking people into sharing information or doing things that they shouldn't be by pretending to be someone else or using clever tactics. It's kind of like a sneaky way of getting people to do what you want without them realizing it. Now, you might think that social engineering and phishing is almost same, but that's not the case. I'll tell you what actually the difference is between social engineering and phishing. uh, so phishing is a part of social engineering, I would say. Okay, but the thing is that with phishing, what happens, it involves where cyber criminals use things like email, texts, or maybe phone calls, or maybe some other medium. Okay, some other medium to manipulate you. But with social engineering, they work in a very psychological manner. Okay, the hackers work in a very psychological manner by giving you utmost trust that whatever you are doing is something which is very legit. So this, and then again, again using those tactics to get your money and to get your data, right? So this is how actually social engineering works. And I hope you understood about this. It's more related to the psychological factor of humans. Okay, it's way more tactical than phishing, right? Now let us understand a case study which will help you in a better way, and which will help you understand in a better way. Okay, so in 2014, a sophisticated cyber attack crippled Sony Pictures Entertainment. Right, hackers likely linked to North Korea posed as a legitimate IT firm and tricked an employee into opening malware. This infected the entire network, granting the attackers access to a treasure trove of confidential data. They leaked embarrassing emails, unreleased movies, and even caused the cancellation of a film's release. The attack cost Sony millions and tarnished its reputation. So now, with this factor, you can understand. Sony Pictures Entertainment, which is such a big organization, right? Even they were also a prey to this social engineering. So some hackers, I told you, right? They work in a very psychological manner. Over there, it's not the thinking or not the work of a machine. It's the work of a human mind, right? By working in a very psychological and tactical way to actually make you believe that this is something which is legit and you fall prey to it. Okay. So the preventive measures are be wary of unsolicited emails and text messages. Never give out your personal information to anyone you don't trust. Be skeptical of anything that seems too good to be true. Very important. Use strong passwords and keep them safe. Right. So guys, next we will be understanding SQL injection. Okay. So let us understand SQL injection over here. So SQL injection is kind of a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to interfere with the queries that an application make to its database. Okay, this basically SQL is the most common way to store your data, right? So with this type of attack, what actually happens is that a attacker or maybe a hacker will inject some malicious SQL code into your website's user input. Okay, so what actually happens here, that suppose maybe you are entering your information, like maybe let's take an example. Suppose you are entering your login ID and password. Now on those fields where you enter your login ID and password, there is some malicious SQL code which is added, which is taking your data and sending it to some other database. Okay, sending it to some other database, and not other database, maybe it directly gets sent to the attacker. Okay, and they get hold of your login credentials. So this is a very common attack, especially to those places where especially to those websites where there is no validation involved in the input fields. Okay, by validation I mean, suppose let's take an example. You open a certain site and you need to add your login ID and credentials. Maybe you need to also add your email ID, right? Now if you don't add that at the rate symbol, then the website will eventually prompt you that this is not a correct email, right? So this is a validation which most of the websites have, but if any particular website doesn't have, then SQL injection might occur to it and they can take your data. Okay, so let's understand the definition once. An SQL injection attack is a cyber attack that injects malicious SQL code into website's user input fields to manipulate the database behind the website. This injected code can trick the database into revealing sensitive information, modifying data, or even taking control of the server itself. One famous SQL injection attack which occurred was the 2008 breach of Heartland payment systems. Hackers exploited vulnerabilities, injecting malicious SQL code to compromise the company's database, resulting in the theft of millions of credit card details. It highlighted the importance of securing database again. Okay, so, what are the preventive measures? Use parameterized statements or prepared statements. So, parameterized statements or prepared statements are basically part of SQL statements, SQL queries. Okay. Then we have regular security audits and code reviews, which is very important. So, if suppose there is the malicious SQL code on your front end, then with the code reviews, with the like repeated code reviews, you can find it and you can remove it, right? Then comes input validation and sanitization, again same thing. Update and patch your software, very important, right? Next we have man in the middle attack. Okay, now what actually man in the middle attack means, right? uh, Guys, you might have seen in some movies or some places where an army individuals are there, and maybe they are communicating to their communicating through walkie talkies on a certain channel, right? And sometimes it happens that the terrorists which are there, terrorists nearby, maybe they try to intercept that communication and get to know whatever the conversations which are happening, right? So this is a kind of a man in the middle attack. Okay, they try to intercept the communication between it and basically get all the information from it, right? So a man in the middle attack is a cyber attack where an attacker intercepts communication between two parties and secretly relays it pretending to be each party to both. It's like eavesdropping on a conversation while pretending to be the other person talking. So here an attacker secretly intercepts and potentially alters the communication between two parties. Um, this is how actually it works. And just because of that, they get the information from each other. And with that information, they can use it for any of the party because they know the information between both of it, right? One of the case study on man in the middle attack in 2015, Lenovo faced scrutiny for pre-installing the Superfish adware on certain laptops, which utilized a self-signed root certificate. This insecure certificate allowed potential exploitation, enabling a man in the middle attack, compromising users' encrypted communications and raising significant security concerns. Lenovo responded by providing tools for users to remove the Superfish and its associated vulnerabilities. So, for example, if you are buying a Lenovo laptop and you get any option of installing Superfish adware, right? So you also see that sometimes it happens that whenever you buy a phone, you get some pre-installed app, right? Now, if you don't require that app, please remove it. It might be another case of man in the middle attack. Okay. The preventive measures are same: use strong passwords and two-factor authentication, be cautious about public Wi-Fi networks, avoid clicking on suspicious link or attachments, install an antivirus and anti-malware software, and use a VPN for added security. So guys, next we have cross-site scripting attack. Right now, cross-site scripting attack and SQL injection, the methods are absolutely common, but over there it's only related to SQL. Okay, but over here in cross-site scripting attack, what actually happens? It again is a type of attacking where the attackers focus on vulnerability, and it allows the attackers to inject malicious code into the website. Now this code can be executed by users browser when they visit the website, giving the attackers control over their data. Okay, cross-site scripting attacks are a type of injection itself in which the malicious scripts are injected into some trusted websites. Okay, so what actually happens over here is that this code is executed by the browser. Okay, and whenever a user enters into that particular website, the session is counted as one session, and in those sessions what actually happened, whatever the user inputs inside that website, it gets directly to the attacker. The inputs or whatever the data is added by the user, it gets directly transferred to the attacker. And in this way they get to know about your particular data, right? So guys, these type of attacks are really very common things. Sometimes you must have also seen that you get random calls from some salespeople to sell a certain product. Right now, how do these people get those information? Right, so you might so cross-site scripting attack occurs in this place. Okay. Maybe some place by mistake you have added your data, or maybe some place that trusted website. Okay, that trusted website is having these type of malicious scripts injected inside it. So whenever even you log in into your particular account, suppose you log in into Mintra, and Mintra has fallen into prey of this malicious scripts. Whatever the data you add over there, whatever the products you see over there, you eventually will get calls for that particular product, or maybe something similar to it, right? So these type of attacks are cross-site scripting. Okay, now a case study on cross-site scripting attack in 2005, MySpace worm incident. So guys, MySpace is basically the time when Facebook and Facebook, Orkut, those type of social media profiles were there. So MySpace was also one of those social media websites. Okay, so MySpace worm incident, what actually happens is the hacker Sammy Kamker used cross-site scripting to inject malicious code into his MySpace profile. This self-propagating worm spread across thousands of profiles, adding Kamker as a friend and modifying user profiles, highlighting the impact of excesses. Okay, So these type of cross scripting attacks are very much common, right? And the preventive measures are: stick to trusted websites, beware of enticing links, keep your browser and software updated, use a web browser with built-in cross-site scripting attack protection. Okay, so let's understand the brute force attack by the definition itself. So, brute force attack is a method of attempting to gain unauthorized access to a system, account, or data by systematically trying out all possible combinations of passwords or encryption keys until the correct one is found. Okay, so this method relies on sheer computational power and persistence of the attacker to break through the security measures in place. So for example, if you're having a very weak password, right, maybe if you add like for example, let's take an example. If you add a password like scalar 123, okay, it's very simple and not that much hard to crack, right? So this is a kind of brute force attack, right? You are constantly involved in finding different possibilities, or maybe finding different probabilities that this is the correct password, right? So it totally relies on the sheer computational power and persistence of the attacker. Let's understand a case study on brute force attack again. In the 2009 RockU data breach, hackers performed a brute force attack on a database containing plain text passwords of over 32 million users. Again, one highlight is, guys, over here, plain text passwords. Okay, the incident emphasized the importance of secure password storage and the risk associated with weak passwords on online platforms. Users were urged to adopt strong and unique passwords to mitigate the impact of such breaches. Right? Preventive measures, again, main thing is use strong passwords, account lockout policies. So lockout policies is maybe if you add so you have seen those type of places. Usually bank websites keep this thing. For example, if you incorrectly add your password 3 times, then eventually your account will be logged for a certain period of time, right? So this is what actually lockout policy means. Then you have two factor authentication. So wherever two-factor authentication is there, please enable it. Okay. Then is password expiry and renewal. Always keep on changing your passwords whenever this expiry or renewal process comes up. Do not skip it for later. Okay. Next, we have DNS spoofing. So, guys, DNS spoofing is a type of cyber attack where the attackers are able to change the domain name system. Now, by domain name system over here means that let's take an example. For example, you are entering into a certain website, but you are redirected to a secondary website, right? So, this is known as DNS spoofing. Okay, let's understand it by the definition. DNS spoofing, also known as DNS cache poisoning, is a cyber attack where the attacker provides false DNS names and the information to redirect a user to malicious website or intercept their traffic. By manipulating the DNS cache with fake DNS responses, attackers can deceive users into visiting fraudulent websites, leading to potential data theft or other malicious activities. Right? So one of the famous DNS spoofing incident which occurred in 2014 when attackers compromised the Wi-Fi network at a Starbucks store in Argentina. The attackers exploited a vulnerability in the Wi-Fi's provider's DNS configuration. Okay. And thus what they did is they redirected the users to a malicious site which infected their devices and devices with a banking malware. This incident highlighted the risk associated with unsecured public Wi-Fi networks and underscored the importance of DNS security measures to prevent such attacks. So, whenever you are logging in into a open Wi-Fi, make sure that all your maybe firewalls are enabled. Maybe your defender system should be enabled if you are using it. Otherwise, try not to use it. Okay. The preventive measures are DNS security extensions which you get. Now, rate limiting over here means that you are adding a session timing. Okay, for example, you can use this particular website for a certain period of time only. Or maybe if you have entered into that website and you are sitting idle for around like 1 or 2 minutes, then eventually you are logged out of that website, right? Then comes network monitoring and secure Wi-Fi networks. Okay, so these things are very much common which you have to keep a track of it. So, guys, these are the top 10 most common attacks which occur. And with this particular video, you get to know that these are the different types of attacks. And I hope you learned a lot of things from it. So, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Scalar's YouTube channel for more such content. If you're having any doubts, you can put down in the comment section below and we'll be happy to help. Thank you.